Sara Davisson here. I'm presenting Curtis K. versus Sioux City Community School Districts and Western Hills AEA 12. This Iowa court case involves a 13-year-old student, Curtis K., transferred from Nebraska in May of '91. Relying on testing from Nebraska, Curtis was found to have normal intelligent functioning. He had significant deficits in academic areas of reading and math, and during the transfer, his IEP was misplaced. A 3-year reevaluation was done in December of '91 because behavior was deteriorating for Curtis. Behavior, psychological testing, and a social work service report done by the child study team was done, and they found several things about Curtis's behavior at this time in December. Behavior was noted to be poor and included several things: poor behavior during unstructured times, engaged in bullying and extortion, defiancy towards adult authority, poor attendance record, and is off task, disorganized, and distracted in class. The personality test done during the reevaluation showed possibilities of anxiety, feelings of insecurity and inadequacy, low self-esteem, and the need for social support for Curtis. The report recommended regular feedback in a positive manner, both in academic work and with behavioral supports in their teaching, in this teacher's approach with Curtis. Attendees at the meeting included the assistant principal, the resource room teacher, and the AAA consultant. Curtis's mother was not present during the reevaluation and IEP in December of '91. The district shows that notice was given to mother and the IEP was sent with a statement of her rights at that time. The team qualified Curtis in December that he in the areas of reading, math, and written expression. Recommendations of restricted placement in special education classes were due to his failing grades in social studies and science. Monitoring behaviors at this time was stated because Curtis required structure to assist in control and had some behavior problems that primarily were found in unstructured settings. Goals were not written for behavior at the time in December, and it was also determined by the IEP team that he should see the counselor regularly. Okay. After the December 1991 meeting, Curtis's behavior deteriorated rapidly after that. Okay, there was in-school suspensions, board panel hearings February 3rd, more in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, another board hearing panel on March 5th, and finally a letter to parent and conference with parent on April 23rd for insubordination. Just to make sure that you understand, the school does not have an accurate day-to-day attendance record for the 91-92 school year. Okay? What we do need to focus on is that he was involuntarily excluded from school for about 24 days. The assistant principal testified that 8 of those days were in-school suspension and 16 days were out-of-school suspension during the entire 91-92 school year. Okay, the juvenile office has conflicting reports that Curtis was excluded from school for 59 days during that school year. It is for sure known that Curtis did not attend from March 17th to April 20th during the school year, and the district also testified that they believed that he was going some kind of inpatient treatment and took no further action, even though they were not notified by any medical facilities that Curtis was an inpatient. The court also concluded that definitely 23 of those days between March 16th and 20th were days of involuntary exclusion for Curtis. Okay, April 20th to May 26th attendance for Curtis is a little bit sketchy. Attendance for Curtis can be placed that he was in inpatient care due to his mother placing him there. Curtis's mother wanted no medicines given to her once he was in inpatient care, even though the doctors reported that he was depressed and had anxiety about his aunt dying and that his mother would leave him. His aunt did die 5 days after he was in inpatient treatment. On the 23rd, his mom removed him from inpatient treatment against doctor's orders and was led to believe that Curtis and other children in her house would be placed in foster care, as well as the state would not pay for Curtis's partial treatment. Okay, Curtis currently has nightmares that the psychiatrist and assistant principal will likely take him away from his mother, and on May 26th, he did attempt to return to school, but was not allowed to because of administration and was sent home. Okay, what the district failed to do. They failed to provide free and appropriate education for him between the dates of March 16th and the 20th. They also failed to prevail to Curtis free and appropriate education to him in the least restrictive environment for January, February, March, April, and May. The school district failed to provide Curtis's mother with detailed written notice required when changes in placement are contemplated. And they also failed to reconvene the IEP team to take into account disciplinary problems related to the change in placement resulting from Curtis's exclusion from school. And they also caused the change in Curtis's educational programming without reevaluation of his educational needs. Okay, the legal implications for the school district is that unilaterally the school district excluded students with disabilities. They violated IDEA 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. The school cannot determine that his misconduct was or was not a manifestation of his handicap. That needs to be done by an IEP team in a manifestation determination. Expulsion cannot stop special education services and programs. Okay, they also were in violation of 34 CFR section 104.33.2 IEP. The school changed Curtis's placement without reevaluation or written notice to parents. Expulsion is a change in placement. Parents need to know when they could file an appeal, and Curtis's placement would stay put until the agreement could be reached. Sections 104.35D reevaluation and sections 104.36 procedural safeguards were also violated in this court case. Finally, Board of Education Examiners Administrative Codes 282.12.3 Section 1, 13.5 Section 1, especially Section B and 13.9 are subject to professional sanctions regarding licensures as professional educators. So, because the administrators fail to provide free and appropriate education to special needs students, they may possibly be facing sanctions regarding their licensures. Okay, there's another part to this. The AEA was involved with Curtis's exclusion in having free and appropriate public education. At no time did they encourage a reconvening of the IEP team to address his behavior concerns. In their evaluation, they relied upon testing done by Nebraska school districts, and also the AEA director testified that there was concerns from staff members from the juvenile court services that special education students were improperly excluded from school. The AEA was aware also that in 1989 investigations by the Office of Civil Rights that the school district was in violation of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and 34 CFR Part 104 for its disciplinary procedures used with students with disabilities. The AEA Director of Special Ed also testified that the AEA was involved in a May 1st, 1992 in-service for dealing with special education students and discipline in the same district. Okay, due to the Iowa Department of Education's concerns over the exclusion of special education students, okay? Records also indicated the AEA staff did not carry out its responsibilities in serving the needs of students with disabilities. However, it was not clear that before May 4th, 1992, the AEA was actually aware of its events, which resulted in Curtis's exclusion from school. Okay, implicated laws involving the AEA. Sections 259.11.7a and 280.8 of the Code 1991 states education agencies have an important responsibility to the education of special education students. Sections 273.5 Code 1991 and the area director of special education must ensure that each child requiring special education in the area receives appropriate program of service. Code 1991 department rules require that AEA education agencies monitor compliance with all applicable federal and state statutes and regulations and rules applicable to the education of handicapped students. And finally, 281.41.25 Section 1 LAC, a significant portion of the education records forwarded was part of the hearing record was apparently kept by the AEA because it was forwarded under a cover letter signed by the AEA Director of Special Education. Decision for the school district. The district was required to form an IEP team that consisted of the Iowa Bureau of Special Education consultant for learning disabilities and a consultant for behavior disabilities, or two other people of equal qualifications that were not associated with the district or AEA. They had to provide oral notice 24 hours and written notice 48 hours to the AEA Director of Special Education about any disciplinary actions with regard to Curtis, and expressly provided for in his IEP. And they were to execute as soon as possible compensatory educational program. The compensatory education program was going to be determined by the IEP team and will take more than probably one semester to complete. Fourth, provide an appropriate reevaluation for Curtis's educational needs by an outside agency that would include the experiences of his last 2 years. They were also to plan and begin counseling program for Curtis, as well as provide counseling services for his mother, and also make an assessment of the appropriateness of whether to promote Curtis to the 7th grade or not. Okay, AEA's responsibility to Curtis was to review all disciplinary situations brought to its attention that involved Curtis, open and maintain communication with all agencies providing services to Curtis, and to provide the district with appropriate services from outside agencies if necessary to assist in the development and implementation of an appropriate IEP for Curtis. Excuse me. Suggestions to the school. They needed to utilize outside resources to decide if to look at effectiveness and appropriateness of disciplinary practices used in the district. They were to begin immediate review of all district policies and practices regarding discipline of students, especially those that are found to have disabilities, and they were supposed to make an assessment of staff needs and staff development for providing professional development in special education and special needs of students. And finally, the school district was suggested to have to review staff resources to determine if they needed additional administrative and school support for special education programs. Finally, suggestions to the AEA in this court case were to build procedures into the school district compliance monitoring, which will reasonably enable assessment of appropriateness of discipline practices with students with disabilities, provide regular service opportunities for school districts on legal developments in special education law, and sponsor in-service opportunities for school districts on alternative approaches to student behavior management. Using non-local persons, they should provide regular in-service opportunities for AEA staff and their responsibilities towards special education students as well. Okay, 2 questions to the class. 1, if you were to join this administrative team in this school district following this situation, what would be your logical steps in making sure you were prepared for meetings? How and what method would you use to collect and record information during the year to be a productive member of Curtis's IEP team? And 2, lack of protocol as well as legal and ethical procedures is part of the reason why Curtis was excluded from the school setting. What order of procedures need to be in place for administrators to follow when dealing with significant disruptions by a special education student in the school setting? Go ahead and post those answers, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful, snowy afternoon.